Hi, grade 7s. So, yesterday we did a lesson. It seems around half of the students did all the homework and uploaded properly. So, if you are one of the half that did it properly, um, would you also mind helping other students in your class that don't know how to do it or don't know that there's homework? Please remind them that there is homework and video lessons that are expected to do. So today we're going to continue 5.5 ordering fractions. We're going back to fractions now. Yesterday we learned about LCM. Before the Chinese New Year break, we did equivalent fractions. So first of all, let's say we have two fractions. Okay, whoops, wrong color. We have two fractions 3/8 and 5/12. And then we want to find out which one is greater. And of course, we know that the two denominators are not the same. Not the same denominator. Oops, denominator, and so cannot compare. So how do we go about comparing these two fractions? Well, first of all, we have to make it so that their denominators are the same. But 1 is 8, 1 is 12. I cannot directly just multiply up 1. If I multiply this whole thing times 2 over 2, it becomes 6 over 16, and 16 is still not the same as 12 at the bottom. So we cannot do that. In order to find out what the equivalent fractions are, in order to compare, there's 3 steps that we need to do. First, step 1. So you might want to write this down. Step 1. We have to first find the LCM of the denominators. And then step 2, I will show you how to do it later, but first just write it down. Or actually, I'll just show you at the side over here. So I'm going to make a line over here, and then step 1, find the LCM of 8 and 12. So for 8 and 12, I'm going to use the ladder method because that one will be faster. 8, 12. Both of them are divisible by 2. That becomes 4 and 6. This is also divisible by 2. This becomes 2 and 3. And then all I have to do is multiply all 4 of them together. So the LCM is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, which is 2 times 2, 4, 4 times 2, 8, 8 times 3 is 24. So the LCM is 24. Now that we found step 1, now we need to do step 2. Step 2 is to find the equivalent fractions of both fractions where the denominator is equal to the LCM. So what does that mean? Let's look at our first fraction, 3 over 8, and I want to make it equal to something over 24. And so this one, 8 times what is 24? I know that 8 times 3 is 24, so I need to multiply the top by 3 as well, and that becomes 9. And similarly, on the other side, we have 5 over 12, and we want it to be something over 24. I know that this is times 2, and so the top is also times 2, and so after multiplying times 2, that becomes 10 over 24. Now, we've done step 2. And then finally, in step 3, we're going to go back to, now that our fractions have a common denominator, we can compare. So compare the equivalent fractions to each other. Okay, so now that we've got it, so 9 over 24 and 10 over 24, which one is bigger? 10 over 24 is bigger. And so now that we know 10 over 24 is bigger, I need to go back to our original fraction and say that 5 over 24, so 5 over 12 is greater. Okay, so when we do this last step, remember we need to compare the equivalent fractions to each other and write the order of the original. Let me make this original fraction. Write the order of the original fraction. So don't write it in the common denominator form. Write it back in the original form. Okay, so this is how we order fractions. And it works for any types of fraction. So let's go on to example, I guess this is already example 1, but I didn't say that specifically. Let's go to example 2. Example 1. Example 1. Find, oh sorry, not find. This time is order the fractions from least to greatest. And then I'm going to have 3 fractions this time. Okay, so this is 3 over 10. We have 3 over 10. We have 2 over 5. And we have 1 over 4. Now, I know some of you may be able to use intuition to immediately order them straight away. But the purpose of this lesson is to practice writing them all, finding the LCM of all 3 numbers, all 3 denominators, and then comparing each of those equivalent fractions and then writing it back in their original forms. So first, we need to find LCM of 10, 5, and 4. So in order to do that, I'm going to do my working out. LCM of 10, 5, and 4. I'm just going to list it out because there's 3 numbers. Or I can use the prime factorization method. So let's quickly do that. Okay, 10 is 2 times 5, and then 5 is just 5. 4 is 2 times 2. So that's 10 equals 2 times 5. 5 equals to just 5. And then 4 equals 2 times 2. And now I know that yesterday there was a little bit of confusion to how to find the LCM of 3 numbers. So I found a better way, a more clear way. So first you can use one color to circle if there are no more common factors between all 3 numbers. So you do that first, all 3, and then you circle common factors between 2 numbers. So there's 2 and 2, so I'll write down 2 over here. And then I'll use a different color. I'll circle 5 and 5, and I multiply that by 5. And then any other number that is left, I can use a third color, and then I'll multiply that by 2 again. And so that 2 times 5 times 2 is equal to 20. Okay, and does that make sense? I think it does. 10, 5, and 4, you can list it out, and then you will find out that the LCM is in fact 20. So after you found the LCM, I want to write each of the fractions in terms of their equivalent fraction where the denominator is 20. So 3 over 10 equals to something over 20. So this will be times 2. This will be also times 2. 3 times 2 will be 6. And then we have 2 over 5 equals to something over 20. So 5 times what is 20? Times 4. And so the top also times 4. 2 times 4, we have 8 over 20. And then now we have 1/4, and then that is equivalent to something over 20. 4 times what is 20? Times 5. And then the top also times 5, we'll get 5 over 20. Now we compare all three numbers. Which one is the smallest, least? Well, 5 over 20, this one is least. And then, which one is the greatest? This one is the greatest. And then we're left with this one in the middle. Okay, so now when we write or when we order our fractions from least to greatest, we need to write them in terms of their original form. This is the original form. So we need to write it in terms of least to greatest. So starting from 1 over 4. And then we have middle, which is the one in red, which is 3 over 10. And then we have the one in blue, which is the greatest, which was 2 over 5. That's how you order the fractions from least to greatest. Okay, so we have a third example. Now, let's go into a little bit of quote-unquote real-world scenario or problem solving or applications. This will be example 2. So, in this example, you are trying to repair your bicycle. You use a 1/2-inch wrench and found that it was too small. So what is a wrench? A wrench is these type of tools for screwing in those special hexagon screws. So you use a wrench for those. Okay, and so you found out that the 1/2-inch was so too small. So maybe it was supposed to be like this, but then it's too small. Okay, too small. And so you need to use a bigger one. Now, from your toolbox, BOX, you also have a 5/8-inch wrench and a 7/16-inch wrench. Which one should you try? And so, of course, we want to find the bigger one, okay, or maybe the biggest one, in fact. We know that the 1/2-inch is already too small, so we want to find an equivalent fraction of one that is bigger. And so first step in this problem, we want to first compare all three of these fractions together in order to find out which one is the biggest. So we have here half, we have also 5/8 and also 7/16. We want to first find the LCM of 2, 8, and 16. And just from looking at this, it's most likely going to be 16 because 8 times 2 is 16 and then 2 times 8 is also 16. We want to get all three of these denominators to 16. We wanted to get them to 16. So you can probably easily find the equivalent fraction for half into 16 at the bottom, which should be, 2 times what is 16 times 8. So the top will be times 8. So this will be 8/16. And then 5/8, 8 times 2 is 16. So 5 times 2 becomes 10/16. And already you can see that 10/16 is slightly bigger than 8, which is a good sign. And then we also have 7/16, which is smaller than 8/16. And so which one should you try? Well, 10/16 is the greatest. So you can answer your question now. We should try and then the original form, 5/8 wrench. Okay, so that is one of the example problems. Make sure you copy down these notes. If you need to, you can go backwards in the videos, rewatch it, pause it anytime to copy your notes so that you are clear on how to find equivalent fractions. This is extremely important because you will be using fractions for almost every single grade in high school. So make sure you get this correct, and then you should have lesser problems when you are moving up into the higher grades. Okay, so your homework for today, homework will be exercise 5.5 questions. Now be very careful here to do the correct ones. It's all the odd questions from 3 to 29 odd questions. And if you don't know what odd questions means, that means 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, all the way until 27, 29. That is the meaning of odd questions. And then on top of all these questions, there are 3 more other problem-solving questions that I want you to do. That is 47, 48, and 50. Okay, so thank you for watching your lesson. Please do the homework and upload it to OneNote class notebook. And if you don't know how to do that, please ask your friends who do know, or you can watch the first video that I posted on Monday. It is also in PowerSchool class pages. So that's it for today, and see you next lesson.